Okay, this is CAD 212, Architectural Applications in CAD, Class 20 on November 9th. Today in class, we're going to be reviewing schedules. We're going to be doing renderings, doing some regular renderings, which we've kind of touched on before, and doing a little bit more advanced renderings on the use of the camera and lighting. We're also going to be doing walkthroughs. After that part of the class, I'm going to go ahead and review dormers because a few people had questions about that. And I want to go ahead and go over that again. So we'll do that at the end of the new stuff. So that way, if you feel comfortable with dormers, you can just kind of drop. And we'll go ahead and just work with the people that do have some additional questions about dormers. We can go from there. Some important dates to remember. On Monday, November 30th, your final project is due. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the classes to come. And then on Wednesday, December 2nd is the final exam. So you can see we're getting pretty close to the end of the semester, and at the point in your project right now, you should be at pretty much wrapping up all of your drawing work. I know we did a lot of stuff in the last class that needs to be completed. But moving forward from here on in, we'll probably be going into some other, not actually adding to the model. You can still continue to work on your model, and that's highly encouraged, especially all the stuff that you needed to do in this bigger model. But we'll be moving into different aspects as far as analytics on the project, creating sheets, new sheets, and things like that. But you should definitely be at a point where you're kind of wrapping up your model work. Today's class, we're going to kind of be going over some general things as far as schedules concerned and with the renderings. So not a lot of new work today, but definitely important work. This will give you also a chance to get caught up on the stuff that some people are running behind, and kind of give us a chance to move into some new stuff on class on Wednesday. With that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into schedules. I should open Revit, that would help. All right, we'll give that a chance to open. All right, and I'm just going to work in a model that I currently have going on for another class. It's a model that's also familiar to people in this class as well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into schedules, how we can do those. Now, if we remember the definition of schedules from before, it's a way that we can organize general information that's going to be pulled out of our model, such as a list of doors that we'll be using in the particular model, a list of windows. We'll also be doing sheets. We kind of touched on this a little bit before. Let's go ahead and jump into our View tab. And in our Create panel, we have our Schedule tool right here. We'll just do the drop down, and you can see we have schedules. We have a list of other ones. We did the sheet list before. So let's go ahead and jump into schedules. In this particular class, we're just going to be touching on architecture. If you do the drop down here, you see you can have a list of what other discipline that you're using, but we're just going to need architecture right now. And the two schedules that we're going to be creating are doors and windows. So we'll go ahead and select doors, first one, and just hit OK. And here's where we can select a whole different variety of ways that we can pull information out of that door, what kind of door we're using. You can see assembly descriptions. There's all sorts of information, fire ratings. There's all sorts of different information that we can use to include in our schedules. So just for this one, we're going to be using just family. And if you double click on that, it'll populate over here. We're also going to be using height. If you just click once and then click this arrow, it'll populate that as well. And we're going to use width as well. So just double click. If for any reason these are ever out of order how you want to, we're actually going to be using this as family height width. You can reorganize them with these directional arrows, but we want to leave ours at family height and width. And we'll just go ahead and click OK. And with that being done, you can see the door schedule will automatically populate. We have our single flush doors with the height and the width. Obviously, just one type of door is being used in this. Our door schedules are going to be rather simplistic unless you've used a couple of different door types or window types, but we still want to get used to the process of using those. And remember, once we create that door schedule, it'll automatically save itself. It'll populate itself in your project browser under your schedules and quantities. So let's go ahead and do one more for Windows. So the next one will be Windows. So we're still going to go back to schedules. This time we'll scroll down to Windows. Scroll down one more. There we go. And we're going to use the same descriptors here. We're going to use family, height, and width. And OK. And then that'll populate your schedules there. So schedules are rather easy to create. The interesting part really kind of gets into when you actually want to go into those schedules and use the different options that they have in there. If you wanted to go in and let's see what else do we have in here. Let's just do floors, for instance. Do family. I don't think we have any thermal mass type. You can see there's a variety of different things that you can choose from if you needed that information. So yeah, we do have just irregular floors. We did not define the type of flooring that within that family. Thermal masses type that we have here. You do not have to do floors, but if you're interested, it's definitely interesting to go in and kind of play with the different floor schedules and things just to see, or different kind of schedules in general, just to see what different options they have. So that's how we're just gonna need a door schedule, a window schedule, and we'll also do sheets. We did sheets before, so we'll just go ahead and review that real quick. So schedules, remember we're going to go down to sheet list. Very similar setup here. And we're going to use sheet number first and then sheet name. And then we'll hit OK. Obviously, I haven't done any sheets yet, but as you're aware of, once we start creating sheets, it will add those sheets here to my schedule, and it'll all be, it'll add itself as we go along. Same thing goes for doors and windows. If you make a change in your doors or your windows within Revit, it will automatically change and update that information within your door schedule. If you add different doors, if you take away doors, it will automatically take care of that within your schedule. So that's pretty nice too. Any questions about schedules before we move on to the rendering part? Yeah, this stuff is pretty straightforward right here. And we've touched on renderings a little bit as well, but we're going to go ahead and do a little bit more advanced stuff on that now. Just as a refresher from before, when we just do regular renderings, remember we're going to go to our View tab, Create Panel, and this 3D tool right here. If we drop down this 3D tool, obviously we know about the default 3D view, which brings us to this part. We're going to kind of play with cameras today and walkthroughs, which kind of makes things a little bit fun. And it's really interesting to see how the walkthroughs work. Once again, walkthroughs kind of take practice just to kind of get the steps down. But once you do, I think we'll actually enjoy doing that. So let's go ahead and jump into just a regular render. So On here, what I call just a regular render is just our basic render that we have our view of our building that we have here. And we're just going to go to our render tool, click on that, and click on render. This gives us a basic render, much as we did before. So when I give you the layout of everything that you're going to be needing in for the final project, I'll give you a list of the different types of renders that you'll be required to do. And we should be getting that out probably within the next week or so. So let's go ahead and close this one out. So basic render is pretty straightforward. Or it gets a little bit more fun to do is when we can use that camera. So I'm just going to jump to level 1. And go to my camera tool. And we have a nice little camera icon. And I'm going to go ahead and just take a picture from this corner. When you click on it, you'll get these rays that kind of come out to give you that field of view. And this is going to give you where the end of field of view is. So if I drag it all the way through here, I'm going to get the entire viewpoint. If I stopped my camera view just here, I just get this little tip of the building. There's times that you want to do that. You just want to focus on a certain section. But just to get started, we'll go ahead and zoom through this entire building so we can get the whole thing. And you get a view that kind of looks like that. So at this point, I'm just going to scroll out a little bit, make this bigger. At this point, I can take these nodes and kind of stretch them out so I can get a bigger viewpoint. I can change this to consistent color, realistic, whatever I wanted to. I'm just going to put it at consistent color right now. Now with this view open at this angle, I'm going to jump back up to my render tool. And let's just do a quick render and see what happens. We'll just hit render. This is set to draft quality, so it's just going to be a little rough. And right away, you'll notice that one of the differences between the camera rendering and a regular rendering is we have sky behind this one, which is really nice. And you get like that, a different perspective of it, like if you're standing here and actually taking the picture of the building at this angle. So a couple different things that we can kind of do to play with that is if you can come back over to this renderings window and we go down and we're going to play with lighting in a little bit, but we can also change the background. Here it kind of defaults to a few clouds. If we wanted to do a very cloudy day, we could do that. Add a few more clouds in the sky. If we wanted to do no clouds, you can see there's a few different options where we can incorporate this. And that's just up to your own preference, how you want to do that, and the preference of the firm that you're working for. Here we have no clouds. So once you have a couple of different renderings like this, remember, this is not going to save automatically. You have to come over to your rendering window and go save to project. You can name that however you prefer, northwest view, southwest view, however, whatever you feel works best for you. I'm not going to specify how you need to name that. We can go back to show model and it'll go back to this view. The thing to remember is that these are static views. They're just like pictures. Take a picture of it, it's rendered. Even if you make changes, even if I added a bunch of windows over here, in this particular rendering, it would not change. I would have to re-render it to the view that I wanted. Let's do a couple more options on how to use the camera. This time I'm going to jump to level 2. Use my camera again. I just take it from this view here. Let me just do one like this so you can see. You can see it's just that tiny little section of building, but obviously I'm elevated here and you can see it a little bit higher. I can still stretch out my viewport. There we go. You can see the weird thing is that where those rays ended, much as on the roof, is where that rendering is going to stop. But the picture stops right at the end of that ray. So let's just render it just to take a look at it. So once again, View tab, Render tool. Not a great angle because it looks kind of off. We'll save to project and do one more on the exterior. So if we compare these two here, here are my renderings. This view 1 and view 2, a little bit more elevated. And one final one, I'll go back to level 2. Camera, I'll take a picture from back here, bring that all the way out. Go to my render tool, set to no clouds and render. Now you can do as many renders as you want within the project itself. It's always good to get different views. What I'll usually recommend people to do is do like just the regular render on a draft level until you get the view you actually want that kind of shows off the work that you want, and then kind of go up to a higher quality setting. Remember, we do have draft level, medium, high. I don't recommend anybody going past high. If you can, if you want, because you are doing this at home, so you may have the time to do it, but remember, the higher the quality, the longer it takes to actually do the rendering. So I'll go ahead and save this one to project. And those are how we do our renderings for our exteriors. Now we can also do renderings of our interiors, and this is where it gets really interesting for those of you who have actually put in the time to create an interesting interior using your different furniture, your different design skills. So we can actually do renderings of the interior as well. So let's go ahead and jump down to level 1 to do a rendering for that. Let's just do this one over here in this room. Once again, I'm going to use my camera tool. Say if I wanted to get this view here, going this way. Snaps, this looks like a prison, doesn't it? We'll go ahead and stretch open this viewport so we can give it a better look at it. So you see it's going to take a snap of the interior. So let's go ahead and render that, see what it looks like. View tab, render tool, just do a quick render. So we've got something here that looks a little weird, don't we? When we're working with interiors, we need to think about how the lighting is going to be working within our interiors. So if we come back over to the renderings window, you'll notice there's a lighting section in here. And here we can pick the scheme, and here it's selected to exterior and sun only. So the only light I have coming into this room is through this little window right here. Now I can change that to sun and artificial. I can change it to artificial only. If I do my interiors, it could be sun only. Let's just see if there's a difference with that. Now, I don't have any lighting placed in here yet. So you can see without that additional lighting, the interior renderings do not show up very well. So that means we need to go back and add some lighting. So I was taking the light just from the exterior. All I did was change the lighting scheme from exterior sun only to interior sun. So just by doing that, it's kind of changed the way this looks a little bit. So it's another thing that you want to kind of pay attention to when you're doing your renderings. Exterior, obviously you want to use these options here. For sun and artificial, for exterior, there are exterior lights that you can add, which make things a little easy. That's one easier and interesting, so you can kind of play with that. And for my interiors, for this particular room, I just have sun only, but you can't see the difference in that. I'm going to save this to project, and then I'm going to go back and throw in a few other lights in this room and see how that works and how that changes things. All right, so I'm going to jump out of this. I'm going to go back to my level 1, back to this room right here. And I'm going to add lighting much as I've added other components in here, but I'm going to go to my architecture tab. I'm going to go to my components tool. I'm going to go to load family. And if we scroll down, there we are. We have a lighting section. For this class, we're going to use the architectural lighting. You have option for external and internal. We're going to go obviously use internal for this one. And when you click on some of these, they're going to give you a symbol that looks like this, so you can see the different lights we have. The symbols aren't great, but it's the way that we're using them. Depending on the option you choose, it could be a little bit more, dressed up. This is a desk lamp, so obviously it's going to look a little bit better. Spotlights are usually just going to look like this. So you can just obviously remember, just click once and see what it looks like. Recessed can. So let me just throw in a couple of lights here. Actually, let me cancel out of this. I'm going to jump to ceiling plan level 1. I'm going to go back into my load family, back into my lighting, architectural, internal. And I'm just going to throw in a couple of lights. It's up to you. You can decide which lights you want to use. It's kind of fun to kind of decide which ones you want, which ones you like. Let's just throw in a couple of, I'll just throw in this. And what we do in MEP classes, we do calculations to determine how many lights that you're actually going to need. But for this class, you can just add lighting as you see fit. So there we have those lights there. This is a camera view that I took before. You see that the view hasn't changed. I took a picture of this so that information will populate, but when I change the rendering, that's going to make the difference. So at this point, I'm going to go jump back to View tab, go to my render tool. I'm going to set this to interior sun and artificial and hit render. Let's go ahead and save that. And let me do an artificial only so you can see what the difference is there. Here we have kind of a night view. And safety project. Let's just kind of flip through those to see what the difference is. I didn't save the one without that. But you can see just by changing that information, I would actually probably add more lights to this. This definitely does look like a cell. But I would definitely add more lighting to this. But you can see what you'll be required to do in order to really kind of show off your interior views is to add some lighting on your ceiling plans. So let's go ahead and do one more of these. So jump to ceiling plan level 1. Let's do the hallway. So I'm going to go to my camera tool, and I'm going to click and take a picture of the hallway this way. That is a terrible picture. All right, I don't like that. I'm going to redo that. All right, floor plan level 1. All right, it's a little better. All right, let's jump to render. All right, we've got something that looks like this. Because I have no lights in this hallway, I have no exterior light showing in at all, and my lighting scheme is set to exterior sun only. So obviously in a room like this, I'm going to have to add artificial light. So even if I change this to interior sun and artificial, we'll go ahead and go to render. We have a lovely black hole to look at. So let's go back to ceiling plan level 1. I'm going to add a couple of lights here, and let's see what happens. Once again, components, load family. Let me pick a couple of different lights. All right, what I did is I changed this from a vertical face to place on face. So now we're going to have these guys show up. So now I have my lighting in place. Now I'm going to go back to that view. Oh, I hope I saved it. Oh, no, I didn't. That's okay. We'll go back to floor plan level 1. You see my lights are in place. Actually, these are not where they're supposed to be. Let me delete those. Let's leave one and see what it looks like. View tab, camera tool. So that's where that light is hanging out. That's okay. Let's just leave it and render it, see what happens, and then we can delete it. So you see we have a lot more lighting in here now. Now when we go to our render tool, and we'll set this to interior artificial only and hit render. And see, these lights work a lot better besides this one that's kind of hanging out in the middle of the wall of the room.
That looks sick.
What?
That looks nice.
Oh, nice.
Like, it just looks.
Yeah, it's
realistic.
once we get to these levels of renderings and things and putting the lights in, it makes a huge difference. It looks so cool. What's really interesting about this part is once you kind of get this down and kind of manipulate the lighting and things like this, if you want to move on to like more advanced stuff, you can take these Revit images and you can import them into Photoshop and you can make them look very realistic. And let's go ahead and save this to project.
So like, does ray tracing make do any difference to it? Like, cause it's kind of looks realistic to me with ray tracing.
I'm not familiar with ray tracing. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, cause I saw the option on ray. I think it's somewhere at the bottom where that glasses symbol is. It's one of those.
Oh, down here. Oh, honestly, I've never used that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It looks like kind of similar a little bit.
Oh, the rays of the sun. There's an option where you can. We have to be on the exterior to use that. Do you mean like the path of the sun?
No, wait. Let me see if I have to pull it up real quick. It's somewhere at the bottom. I don't know which one it was. I think it's in the visual style, maybe. Yeah,
oh, okay. Yeah, the visual style it works. That works different than we have in these actual renderings. So yeah, it is going to be different.
It's dark on the interior.
Yeah. So this is actually like visual styles for you to work with, where the rendering, you can. I think what you're talking about is like lights and rays of the sun, and that is adjustable in our actual rendering, but it's not through this visual style down here. Yeah, that's totally, yeah, that's just kind of like when you're drawing or leaving that at something else. But if you wanted to do what you're kind of talking about in a little bit more advanced, so we have render here, and there's ways that we can adjust the angles of the sun and things like this. But you can do that. We don't go into that a whole lot in here. It's pretty much just this this part. But there are ways in more advanced Revit you can adjust that, the different angles of the sun and things like that.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. All right, so we've got less than a minute left. So let's go ahead and drop. At this time, I'm going to send out a new Zoom invite, and we'll jump into walkthroughs.